Roswell Flight Test Crew, back here at CES 2016. And at the earlier press conference with FAA Administrator Michael Huerte, Brendan Schulman, the attorney from DJI, had what I thought were some really great comments. So let's listen to what he had to say.
Consumers have enjoyed freedom from burdensome drone regulations, and the result of that freedom has been tremendously positive for innovation in what is now viewed, I think, by many people as the greatest revolution in aviation since the jet engine, if not the Wright brothers. Many companies on display here on the trade floor were founded by hobbyists who have spent years tinkering with model aircraft and now are developing the latest in technology and leading the field. So despite the alarmist headlines of 2015, and there have been many of those, the technology story of the past year, from my point of view, is a net gain in public safety. As stories already emerge of flood victims being rescued, missing people being found, sharks being spotted at beaches, and fires being put out with the help of so-called consumer drones. Quite often, in those potentially life-saving situations, it has been a recreational drone user who's been in a position to help because they have the technology deployed out there and they know how to use it safely and responsibly. And we have several customers who are already working with airlines overseas, believe it or not, airlines to inspect airliners using drones. And we're currently working with one of the world's leading airlines to explore how drones may be used to improve airport security. So the technology actually also has a direct benefit to aviation safety and security, and that's a fact that has not been widely reported. DJI was very pleased to have contributed to the registration task force. As the world's largest manufacturer, we met with the FAA and other industry participants to work collaboratively on a registration framework that makes sense for this technology. And like many people in your agency, we dropped everything in our busy schedules to make time for that and to spend weeks on getting the report right and contributing to the process. And we expect the FAA will come back to us again, like Nancy suggested, come back to us the next time it plans to have a major UAS regulatory initiative like registration. Now let's be clear, surprise announcements and abrupt shifts in long-standing policy positions make it not only difficult to arrive at reasonable outcomes, but lock everybody into positions that make cooperative approaches virtually impossible and may also prompt litigation. The registration framework, which is a great example of the collaboration that we'd like to participate in again, is unquestionably better as a result of industry participation. We proposed, and the FAA created, a registration system that is instant and web-based. It requires a consumer to just use it once, even if they buy many drones over the period of the next few years. That's a significant departure from traditional aircraft registration, which requires paperwork for each and every single aircraft. But it's crucial to have that framework in place because that's how these devices are used. The way people buy and use them is very different. We addressed in the task force what might otherwise be an unnecessary stumbling block for non-US citizens who are here as students or visitors and want to use drones. We also raised concerns about the privacy of the database, considering that teenagers will have their contact information in it, and it is our understanding, and it was a fundamental premise of our recommendations, that the FAA intends to protect that information so that it's only used for official investigations and enforcement. Those are just a few of the progressive aspects of this new registration framework that were the result of industry input in the task force process. Industry-led technology initiatives are also going to be a large part of the solution to the concerns that we hear about. Our ready-to-fly drones already have an altitude limitation feature, and I know that other companies have the same. And nearly 3 years ago, well before all these headlines about drone sightings near airports or by airline pilots, we implemented a geofencing feature that helps keep drones away from airports. Nobody gets credit for preventing something that didn't happen, and I understand that, and that's sort of not attractive to the news in terms of reporting, but I have no doubt that steps taken by our company and others have already made the operational environment safer. Late last year, we launched the next generation of our geofencing system. It provides enhanced situational awareness and, in a first for any drone, live TFR information to the operator. So, for example, when a wildfire TFR is issued, and that was one of the things the administrator mentioned, that we are very concerned about drones interfering with wildfires. When a wildfire TFR is issued by the FAA, a drone that receives the live update will by default not take off within or fly into the TFR area. That helps prevent inadvertent uneducated operation in areas that raise concern, but it's only half the solution because we know, as those examples pointed out, that firefighters and other emergency responders will be using the technology to help save lives in those locations. So with the new system, verified operators can use informed judgment just as manned aircraft pilots do to unlock the flight limitation. And that flexibility for a geofencing approach is crucial because we know with years of actual experience that a blanket geographical-based limitation on flight is the wrong approach. And those and other industry-led safety efforts are driven by our common interest in public safety, not by any regulatory mandate. We were not asked 3 years ago to create a geofencing system. We did it on our own. Solutions that balance risk with benefits can be best achieved by working with stakeholders who already have millions of operational hours and hundreds of thousands of users, rather than devising elaborate schemes that may not work in practice. The consumer drone world is a rich source of knowledge about practical and creative ways to achieve optimum levels of safety, and is reflected in how many Section 333 exemptions designate DJI equipment to be used. I think about 75% of those last time we checked. It's clear that technology that's designed for hobbyists is also equipment that works well for commercial applications. So at our company, we will always have all of the creative and beneficial applications in mind as we approach regulatory challenges. We must arrive at solutions that work across those vast variety of UAS applications. So in this critical new year, we look forward to working with the FAA to achieve reasonable regulatory outcomes that address safety concerns while preserving operational freedom. Thank you very much. Just a quick comment on the privacy question. So we see across our big user base that people who are conscientious and want to register, the one thing that's tripping them up is their concern about having their address and email in a registration database that's going to be searchable in any way. And it sounds like it will at least be searchable by the public by registration number. The problem with that is license plates, car license plates are not searchable, so if somebody cuts you off in the road, you can't retaliate and show up at their door the next day. So people are concerned, and I'm concerned, that having a registration number visible on the model aircraft, or the rule does provide for putting it inside, which is one of the innovations that we came up with on the task force. I think that was Nancy's idea. So that's great, but for people whose number is exposed, you could then look them up. You know, child flying in the park, you could look them up and figure out where they live. And I think inevitably with the roughly 40 million combinations of numbers, someone could probably start running the numbers and over time pull out the database information. So I remain concerned about any database that's searchable by the public for other than law enforcement or investigation purposes. One of the things that's made registration work so successfully thus far is that it's simple, it's easy, it's online, you put in a few pieces of information and you're done. And I do have concerns that in the coming year with the new rules that there isn't going to be an easy to use, easy to understand provision for what I call use of micro drones, small drones that weigh a few pounds. If we have a system that requires people to get licensing and to jump through a lot of hoops just to take a simple real estate photo, because that photo is considered a commercial use, I think we're going to have a massive problem of non-compliance and not have the people brought into the accountability system. So one of the things many of you know I've been advocating for now over a year is that we have that micro category, as other countries do or are proposing, typically at the 2 kilogram range, where there's just a separate regulatory system. It's got 5 or 6 easy to understand rules: proximity to airports, altitude, visual line of sight. People can understand that. They can come in, we can police each other, and as manufacturers, we can say, here's how you operate commercially with a microsystem. You just have to know 5 or 6 things, go off and innovate and be productive. And I think that's a real solution to the accountability system in the future.